What is up, guys? Jason Rigby here, ABQ Business Podcast. Want to talk to you about an amazing book I'm reading right now. I know all of us as students of leadership, if we're not reading, we know we're not growing. And if we're not growing, we know we're not doing the best that we can do for the people that we serve. And so this book is called One Mission: How Leaders Build a Team of Teams. This is a Navy SEAL, Special Forces. He helped write a book called Team of Teams, and many of you may have heard that book by General Stanley McChrystal. And Chris Fussell wrote a book called One Mission: How Leaders Build a Team of Teams. And you do not, I don't want you to tune off. I don't want you to say, well, I need to go read the Team of Teams before. You don't have to read the Team of Teams. I encourage you to do that. But this is kind of get into the how, and we all want to know the how. You know, how many times have you watched a YouTube video on leadership and they just kind of skim over a bunch of points and they don't tell you how to implement something? How do you execute this? How do you execute that? I don't like that. I don't like, philosophy is great. Philosophy's fine. I study philosophy. I can take philosophy and kind of create my own, but I don't want to watch. I watched a YouTube video the other day from a famous person that does leadership, and they kind of gave 10 points of leadership, and every single of them was so vague and so general that it's like, how can I implement that in my personal life? How can I implement that in the people that I serve? How can I implement that in my family? The people that I lead. How do I do that? That's the question I have. And that's the question this book answers. And it's going to help you understand what's going on in your workplace. And if you have 3 people that you lead, or you have 3,000, it does not matter. This book is for everyone. And I kind of want to start off because General Stanley McChrystal wrote the foreword, and he talked that in 2004, they had the rapid victory in Iraq and Afghanistan, the so-called, the one where everyone was like, we're done. Yeah, we did this. And I know we've got issues with Afghanistan and the 20-year war and all that, and I understand that, and I want to keep politics out of this. But they became to see that there was this issue that kept popping up, that Al-Qaeda could outmaneuver them. They could have things happen that the intelligence here in the United States, which is presumably the greatest in the world, we would say, the amount of resources that we have. It's like, how can these with, not even a 1/100th of a tenth of a budget, how are these peeps outmaneuvering us, the enemy outmaneuvering us, and causing these car bombs and blowing up buildings and injuring, not only just citizens, but, injuring American soldiers? How are they being able to do this? How are they so fast? So there was a counter-terrorist task force that Chris Fussell was, as a Navy SEAL. He was in this organization, and General Stanley McChrystal met him. And what impressed him the most at that time, because, General Stanley McChrystal was 50 and, Chris is 30, is how he understood the how, and how he wanted to look at the larger how behind everything. It's the wizard in the Wizard of Oz. You pull back the curtains and you see what's really going on. And so that's Chris's gift. His gift is pulling back systems and looking at them and finding problems in them and fixing them, maybe even creating a hybrid system that goes along with that system. And we'll get into that as we get into this book. But the book is about decentralized decision-making. And I know some of you are fans of Jocko Willink, like I am. And if you haven't heard his podcast, I encourage you to do that. Another Navy SEAL. And you have to understand this. Whether you politically like the U.S. military or not, whether you're extremely conservative, extremely liberal, or you're in the middle, whatever it may be, I want you to understand something, because I was in the Marine Corps. Whether I agree with what I did or didn't do doesn't matter. There is an organization that can take high school kids and turn them into leaders very quickly. I was 19 years old and in charge of a bunch of helicopters. Think about that. Would you take a 19-year-old and say, here's millions and millions of dollars worth of helicopters, you're in charge of these? make sure they fly, make sure they do missions. Then as I got into doing more and more and become, getting rank at 21 years old, 22 years old, 23 years old, then the responsibility became, hundreds of millions of dollars. How do they do that? They don't have people coming in with an MBA. They have people coming in straight out of high school. So the leadership principles that you see in the military, whether you like the organization or not, they're there for a reason, and they're extremely effective. And Jocko Willink says this, and I think it's so. He goes, how many times do you think I had to bark orders and tell somebody what to do in the Navy SEALs? And this always shocks people. He said, never. This is decentralized decision-making. And when you grasp that people need to own their decision, and you're going to allow them as a leader to make the decision and coach them through it, but they're going to own it, and they're going to make the decision, that's when your organization, that's when your company, that's when you as a leader begin to flourish. And this is what he talks about, decentralized decision-making. And then how we maintained awareness, but did not impede the mission. How we could make decisions with limited resources. I know how much of us are facing that now, especially, with COVID and everything that's going on. If you want to say after COVID, whatever it may be. But, a lot of our budgets got cut in half on a lot of different things. Hours of operation, the way that we operate, the systems that we had in place aren't working. We had to recreate systems. So he was in this task force senior leadership team. And General Stanley McChrystal said, spending our time in accordance with the organization's priorities around the world. In addition, I advised him at the outset to exploit this opportunity to actively learn how it actually worked. So Chris took it all in, the book says, observing the nuances of our organization's process and structures. He began to get this fusion of intelligence that was all over the globe and began to identify and capture best practices throughout each of the teams. And this isn't just talking Navy SEALs. You got to realize you have intelligence teams, you have NSA, CIA, you have, civilians, contractors, you have Green Berets, Navy SEALs, Marine Recon, Raiders. I mean, you have a lot of, and each of them have their own culture. They have their own distinction, and so each of them are silos trying to operate in one mission. And that never works. You can't have that. And a lot of you have businesses that way, or maybe you're a middle management leader now and you know this. You can't go to this other department because that other department is so siloed, they will do absolutely nothing for you. Every time I talk with businesses, every time I consult, it's the same thing over and over again. You have too many silos and everybody's fearful to make a decision. And so all they do is stay in their own little silo and make those decisions because they don't want to interrupt. They don't want to cause any waves. Maybe they've saw repercussions from before. They don't want to be playing the political games with each other. That manager may be threatened if you ask a question about a system or a process. So a lot of your systems and processes stop within that one. Maybe it's just sales. And so sales doesn't want to talk to marketing, or marketing doesn't want to talk to sales, or whatever it may be. I was in a dealership here recently, and it's interesting because you have service department wasn't even talking to sales department for years. Service department had a thing against the sales department. Who does that hurt? It actually hurts the customer, but it hurts every employee there, but it hurts the customer. When you buy that car, you want to have that smooth transition from sales to service. You want to be able to know that you can take your car there or call your salesperson and have it be reliable. So when they're not liking each other, it creates tons of animosity, and you would be surprised. Somebody brings a trade in, and then the service department has to take the trade in. So the service department's going to try to make as much money as they can off of, because the sales department has to pay to fix the trade in so they can sell it. So, so much animosity. And we see this all the time in businesses. And I know each and every one of you have experienced this, or you're experiencing it now. So how do you take something, the U.S. military, especially special forces, with Navy SEAL culture, Marine culture, Army culture, FBI, CIA, NSA, all these different organizations that are, government entities, contractors, they all have got their own DNA in how we operate. This is how we do it. I am a Navy SEAL. This is how I do it. This is the only way I do it. How do you change that? And the biggest fear that you have is what they call blue on blue. And that's because one organization doesn't know they're in a hostile environment. They don't know the Green Berets are on one side of the building, and on the other side of the building is Marine Recon. And next thing you know, they're just shooting at each other because they can't see each other. And so now you have a blue on blue. If a soldier dies, that's horrific. And this happens. And this is all because of silos. This is what can happen. In the military, it's worse because it's people's lives. So Chris, with this task force and seeing the insurgency that was happening in Iraq, he saw the insurgency in itself that they were technology-enabled, interconnected networks of highly autonomous individual actors. They weren't like violent gangs or mobs. They were being led by a belief of ideology, a religious belief of ideology. Their memberships were motivated by this extremist view, and they were allowed whenever possible to do unconstrained violence. And they did it with speed and effectiveness. So here we have this centralized organization that's the military, and we do it one way and one way only. And then now you have these decentralized little cell groups, what we call terrorist cell groups, not just here, but globally, causing all this mayhem, destruction, using technology to be able to be effective. And right now we're going through the Ukraine-Russia war. What's happening? How much cybersecurity stuff are we facing here in the United States? It's unreal right now. And they've given warnings on it. The president came out and gave a warning on it. So, technology is a huge thing. We don't see the underlying or the underplaying of what technology can do. So they wanted to build this approach, this team of teams approach, with an emphasis on shared consciousness and empowered execution. How do we take these silos? We create a shared consciousness, one mission. Everyone function in this way. Yes, you can keep your DNA. You can be proud of being a Navy SEAL, but you've got to understand the mission. We need to understand the enemy. How do we help these people? How do we conquer this? How do we do this? And then not just a shared consciousness, but this empowered execution. They need to be empowered within themselves to execute. You've seen the manager that runs around, and maybe you're this way. You run around busy all day just putting out fires because you have no empowered execution. You haven't empowered your people, took the time to coach them, to empower them. Yeah, it takes a little bit of work in the beginning, but it's nice whenever somebody can do something and you see it work out and they owned it and came up with it. You know why you're losing employees? Because they feel like there's no ownership. You're just telling them what to do, and then when they do it wrong, you're getting on to them. That's not good for anyone. That's why you're so stressed out. That's why you're not able to go to the gym. That's why you're working 12, 15-hour days. Decentralized decision-making is where it's at, guys. Understand this. So what they had to do was this creation of a true strategic alignment across all the organizations, executing discipline, having transparent communications, and decentralized decision-making. So here we go. We got to change the special forces in the middle of a war. Good luck. How do you create an adaptable organization when you have so many different ones that are so ingrained with the strong team DNA that they're willing to die for each other, and a Navy SEAL gets a trident? And then how do you get them to think in a broader picture? How do you do that? Well, that's what the book is about, and we're going to go into this more. And really the book, and he talks about this, and General Stanley McChrystal talks about this in the foreword in the beginning. He says, the willingness to create a new culture. And I want to ask you something, because we're going to go through this book chapter by chapter. I'm going to do an episode per chapter. I want to ask you this. Do you have a willingness to create a new culture? You're like, I don't think I can. Yes, you can. If you have the desire and the passion, you can personally model the culture that you want to establish. You can follow the old ways and do the way it's always been done. You can keep doing insanity, doing the same thing over and over again, expecting different results. You know why your sales team isn't performing? Because you're doing the same thing over and over again, expecting different results. It's just a miracle. Yeah, you may get a 10% bump. If you guys may get lucky. But think about it. Why? I'm going to ask you this. Why are you not willing to change? If you're a leader and you're not willing to change, you have a self-awareness issue. And you need to look within inside of yourself and say, why am I not? What's causing me? Is it fear, insecurity, me worried about losing my position? You start empowering people around you to lead, and you coach them through that process. One, they're going to be loyal to you. You're going to create a team. Number two, they're going to stand up for you because they see how much you care, because that's what you're doing as a leader. Instead of telling them what to do, you're allowing them to make the decisions and then coaching them through that process. Then having them come back and debrief. We could use that military word, or having them come back and say, here's what worked, here's what didn't work. No repercussions. Here's how we're going to do it better next time. Or maybe, we can fix this or this. Now you're creating transparency. You want to eliminate a lot of your problems that you're having to deal with constantly, putting out fires constantly. This is how you do it. In this book, One Mission, How Leaders Build a Team of Teams, get it. I encourage you, read it. You can read it in a weekend. It's very, very simple. Weather's getting nice. Sit outside. I sat outside. I know it's not good for me, but I sat outside, drank a Dos Equis, or a couple of them, smoked a cigar, and read the book. And it's amazing. I love the Team of Teams book by General Stanley McChrystal. This one was the how of that. But like I said, you don't need to read both of them to understand it. If you're into this kind of stuff, I encourage you to read both of them. But I want to ask you this before we get to the next week. We'll get to the next episode. Are you willing as a leader to create a new culture?
Thank you for joining us on the Albuquerque Business Podcast. And thanks to our sponsor, RigbyDigital.com. Make sure to subscribe and share. And go to abqpodcast.com. Get show notes, resources, and links to everything we talked about today to help you navigate your journey as an entrepreneur and business owner.